You are listening to the Kentucky X-Files Season 3 with your hosts Dennis Mays, Tyler Stewart, and Josh Gibbs. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also visit us at www.kyxfiles.com. And now, on to our show.
Okay, guys, listeners, gals, and everything out there, we are here with the man, the legend, Kyle.
Oh, you're talking about me. Okay, cool.
Hell yeah. Kyle, welcome. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on. Finally get to talk about something other than Bigfoot here we'll probably get into Bigfoot, but...
Oh, yeah. It's gotta happen.
It's always sprinkled in there. It's always,
right.
Yeah.
You don't get the Discovery Bigfoot guy on and not ask him some Bigfoot questions. That's, I mean, that, you know.
I tell you what, I don't know how you guys are going to really top the questions from the live stream. Those were good questions.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly, the live stream was fun as hell, and it was awesome just to get to talk to you then. But it in a way, since we were a guest, you know, we were kind of asked to just come on and hang out too. I was like, I feel weird about it, so I don't want to like jump out there as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I just feel like you know, that's Brian, you know, Brian from Sasquatch Odyssey doing his thing, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to step on Brian's toes, you know. He's such a professional dude, and he's, you know. But now that we have you, I'm excited.
Do it. Let's battle.
Yeah, let's do this. It's going to be fun. I mean, your reputation precedes you. Everybody knows who you are. You know, we know all about it. You can't bring you up without, you know, Mr. Todd Standing's name coming into it.
Yep.
And in a way that kind of bugs me, because I'm like, man, I want to hear about you. Like, we have you in front of us. We don't have Todd in front of us, and no offense to him, but I want to hear about your stuff, what you're interested in, what you've learned since you started, you know?
Well, I appreciate that, you know, because I like to think that I'm not Todd Standing, and I would hope that people don't think I am just, you know, a byproduct of Todd Standing. You know, like, I am my own person. I have my own things, and I have trained from him, and I have learned a lot from him, but it's also not just like whatever he says is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, like, I can take his opinions and I can make them my own in their own version, you know, and I have different goals than he does, you know. Right. So I'm taking what you like, the wilderness knowledge is extremely important, and I'll take his word for that. The Sasquatch I will too, but I have, you know, my different views on that. So I kind of just, you know, like I said, I'm not Todd Standing. He's very controversial. I know that. I work with him. It's just how it is, you know. And I actually just reached out to a lady today. She was on Bigfoot photo profile of some Facebook group that I'm with.
Yeah.
And she like went off on like on a post, like, how dare you guys delete my post? I didn't say anything or be it, you know, it was a picture, like, just because you guys don't like Todd Standing. And I was like, reached out. I was like, hey, you know, like, you're always welcome on our thing. And like, if you ever need to talk, like, I work with Todd Standing, and I have to put that out there that I work with him because I do, you know?
Yeah.
But I also have to make it known that I'm my own person. So it's really kind of hard to try to separate that, you know, but it is cool to like kind of start building my own name off of him. And it's not so much like, because Discovering Bigfoot podcast, it's not really like Todd Standing's podcast. It's like,
Yeah.
if you first hear from me, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That sounds good, whatever. And then you look in, you're like, oh shit, like, you see the documentary and everything. So, but yeah, no, it's really cool to be on. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate
Absolutely,
it.
man. Yeah. We I know, like I said, we got some Bigfoot questions, but there's some other stuff that I'm personally dying to ask you about, just to get your opinion. Nothing controversial. There's no ambushes here. You know what I mean?
Hit me with some right hooks. Let's do it.
Everybody who listens to our show knows that we are literally the working man's approach to the subject. We don't really, like we were on with Pat, he's like, well, here's what you're going to be up against and all this about like, skepticism and all this. And I had to kind of reaffirm to him, like, hey, look, we're not coming at you at all. We're not combative with you. We want to know just as much as the next guy does. We've seen our fair share of the blob squatches and the red circles and all that, enough to be skeptical. But as far as like setting up the old ambush, like bring you in and then just start attacking, that's not us. That's never been us. And I think our listeners would be ashamed of us if we tried it.
Yeah.
So my question has to do with other cryptids that are out there. All right. So we've got the one that I absolutely can't usually contain my laughter about is the dog man, which I think is a kangaroo. What else we got, guys? I know there's some like
Frog
miscellaneous,
man.
the Ohio frog
Lizard
man. And the lizard man, and what was the one, the famous one that comes up on the X-Files all the time is
Mothman,
the knot deer, and the Mothman. Yeah.
Wait, what was that?
The knot deer.
I've never even heard of that. What is that?
Okay. Josh.
I just hope away.
Josh,
grab your popcorn. You're going.
I just love the way he explains it.
Yeah. So the knot deer is it's an Appalachian cryptid.
Okay.
And this creature falls in the Uncanny Valley. Are you familiar with the Uncanny Valley?
Yeah.
It's not an actual location. So with what makes this thing so terrifying is that it's just enough deer that you feel safe for a second, but it's not. The reports are like forward-facing eyes, canines, gnarled up skin, antlers that point opposite directions. It's kind of falls under like almost like a skinwalker type thing, but not quite. So it's like this just thing that is not, which is actually what makes it the most terrifying thing about it, is that it's not anything.
To me, it sounds like a Wendigo with a bad case of CWD.
Yeah. Right. But this thing walks on all fours. It's like it's enough deer that you get close to it, not realizing that it's not a deer.
And in every scenario, it always knows Tyler's name.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
The one thing I'm worried about it knowing my name, but it's talking. That I'm not worried about that. It's talking.
Does it always say Tyler for some reason?
Yeah,
every time I come up with a scenario about this, I always say I think it's gonna be like, Tyler, help me.
It's gonna have just like some British accent, like sipping some gin and juice or whatever.
The first time I told him this, he's like, why does it know my name? I'm like, I don't know, man. It's just my scenario. So the point is that there's a lot of cryptids all over the place. What's your take, man? What do you think of all that?
Oh man.
Do you think people are, smoking something or?
Well, I mean, there's definitely that, there's definitely a case of that going around for sure. But, like the dog man, there was one good account that I heard. I think it was on Brian's channel that he talked about the dog man, and it really kind of struck me as odd. And it was weird, like how it happened that this giant wolf walked across the trail and like looked at him. And he shot at the ground or something. I'm probably botching the story. He like shot at the ground, and it just kind of like, how like in push-up mode, you like either bend your knees to get up or you push yourself up hard.
Yeah.
It literally went from on all fours. It just like picked itself up with its hind legs only and just like stood up and dropped its arms and looked at him, and just standing on just its two rear legs, and then went back down on all fours, like almost like it had like it was like suspended from a cable. It just went from like all fours to standing up and looking at him, and then just left. And he was like, "What the fuck did that? What the fuck is that?" And he was an avid hunter and everything like that, so I trust his word.
Yeah.
So that's the only like legitimate case that I've ever heard of Dogman. Anything else, I have no idea. I've never had any experience. I've only ever heard of like that.
Yeah.
That encounter, or maybe one or two more that were a little bit, crazy. I don't know. I mean, is it like a government lab fuck up or something like that? Like what?
Yeah.
Is it just one or that? See, that's the thing where, how they say there's only one of them. That would be my argument with Dogman. There's just one of them.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I could ever really see it happening.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a pretty cool take on it. Just one dog man out there, kind of random occurrences or whatnot. We heard the description of the dog man, the dog-like face, like shredded up, ripped, more ripped than a Julian salad or whatever. It big old black claws and generally a bad attitude.
Red eye shine.
Red eye shine. That was the big deal there. And me and Josh one day were sitting there messing around and we're like, what was it? Dark Waters. Yeah, it was like Dark Waters had this like video clip of this thing jumping through some dude's yard, and you could barely see it. And man, we took the footage and just ran it, and then we matched it to a kangaroo, like leaping, just its leg. So then we were like, well, let's look at kangaroos. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you just like see its face like over this weird little like grassy knoll or something like that, or like brush and shit all over the place. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
No, this was in a backyard in Florida.
Yeah, same one.
Yeah, but it was behind like the tree line where like you couldn't make it out.
No, it was in front of the tree line, because remember that we used a light pole for reference of size.
Yeah, what he's talking about is the other part of that video. Because we only just dissected the actual movement part of the video. We never went into the actual face of it.
Yeah, see, because I even went as far and found the original person that posted it on Facebook. I found their Facebook page, and I found the original video from them.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anything more than just the part where he's sitting and he's got the back door open and he's shaking, lighting a cigarette, and then it happens.
Yeah, I mean, the reaction's like believable. Everything's believable. It's just the creature in question, We started to do this thing to spiral looking into aberrant kangaroos in the United States. Turns out it happens
quite a lot.
Shredded up, dog-like face, red eye shine, big black claws. Dude, I'm convinced. I don't know. I'm convinced. I'm like, dude, there's our dog man right there. It's kangaroos. Right. And they have a piss poor attitude. Like, they're shitty.
Yeah. I mean, that description definitely does fit then, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought they were black.
Hey, you know what? I don't know. I've heard all different. Yeah, I've heard all kinds of different.
Well, we had a guest that told us there was 7 different colors on his property.
Yeah. He also told us that he didn't want to disclose the location because he was afraid someone would identify the plants in the background, and that's how they would find where he is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
so I don't know.
You can do that, but I mean,
I don't think you could pinpoint the actual location, but
I mean, you get an area. That's about it.
A region, yeah.
Yeah. Like, but I don't know. Like, yeah, I've heard the whole they're black, but I've heard the whole thing that it looks like the Van Helsing wolf from like the Hugh Jackman movie. They're saying it's more dog than wolf-like.
That's what I was always pictured.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, but in that video that they're talking about from Dark Waters, you could definitely see like a silhouette of a tail behind it. It like you kind of could see it. And instead of like, since it has the same haunches, like how everybody depicts like this backward, like kicked back legs, it looks like it's running, but you can like when they slowed it down, it's actually hopping.
Yeah.
Like,
it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. I just want to touch on the fact that I hate kangaroos.
Do you really?
I despise them.
What is it about them?
They shouldn't be real.
Can we ask you? Like,
they stand on their tail to kick you in the chest and like drop your intestines.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's fair.
That's fair.
Like,
I feel like that's fair.
Yeah.
I believe that's what raptors evolved into.
Right.
Well, I mean, what was it? The prehistoric kangaroo, the Procoptodon. It's like a gigantic kangaroo. I mean, come on.
Right.
You know, nothing was messing with his ass back then.
Oh yeah. Also, they put their kids in like this weird skin pocket that they have on their stomach for another unknown reason.
It's a marsupial thing,
Marsupials do that?
Do all marsupials do that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's actually that's one of the definitions that makes it a marsupial.
Oh.
Yeah. Possums do it. Kangaroos do it. There's a few others.
Possums do that?
Yeah.
I had
Dude,
no idea.
Okay. Yeah. That's wow.
Well, okay. Kangaroos are too big for that.
Well, no, possums don't. Possums do something. What the hell is it? Let me back up. Possums do something different, but there's an American marsupial, and I can't remember what the hell it is.
I don't know. I have no idea. So
I have to look it up.
In all honesty, though, I mean, in regards to all these like just outlandish cryptids and stuff, citing skinwalkers, Wendigo and shapeshifters, Dogman, blah blah blah, the Mothman, coming from the stuff you've experienced up in the Pacific, North, right? I mean, the Pacific Northwest, that's pretty much your playground, right? Up there.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Pacific Northwest like Vancouver Island, like Nia Bay and Washington State, like kind of, Oregon, like that area is the Pacific Northwest to me.
You guys are farther up than that.
Just the Rockies.
I was right.
You were right?
I was absolutely right. Yeah. Possums are North American marsupials, and they do carry their young in a pouch.
Wow.
Before they start carrying them on their back.
Didn't know
that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, from your experience, though, the stuff that you've been out there and seen and experienced, I love that he's showing us.
Isn't that disturbing?
I didn't want to see the possum pocket. No, that's no good.
That is the worst of the Hot Pocket franchise.
When you're coming from your background and your experience, especially with Todd Standing and all the stuff you guys have done together, when you sit back and look at this other stuff, this other cryptid stuff, do you kind of sit there and go like, I don't know?
Yeah,
or is it like, well,
I think some of it might actually be misidentification as Sasquatch, because we have 1,000 reports out there of something tall in the woods with red eyes and very muscular, and even if like I just did a podcast with a guy who spotlighted a Sasquatch, just like sitting on his back porch and just heard something. He heard a tree break or whatever. So he turned on his flashlight and he's like, all I saw was fur. So just held it there for a minute and then clicked it off. I'm like, dude, like, what the hell? That's awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
So like, I mean, that could have been a dog man. So there's a lot of things out there, I think, that, just like the Mothman, it's up in a tree. It's got red glowing eyes. It shakes the shit out of the tree. Very possibly it could be a Sasquatch. I know they climb trees. So, the Wendigo or the Skinwalker, they, as far like banshees, they scream like banshees is, the research that I've done with them. So I know that Sasquatch scream just like that. And they're terrifying when they scream, so, and they sound like dying women out in the woods. To me, that kind of lines up a little bit. So I think, like I said, it might just be misidentification.
I think hold on, Denny. I know what you're about to say.
No, I'm not jumping. I'm letting him talk, man. I mean,
No. I thought you.
I know what I heard, and he just said it. So
yeah, that's what I was about to say. But if anybody doesn't know this, but like, he has his own podcast. I think he needs your story on his show. We'll keep that story.
That'd be awesome. Him. Yeah, I'd love to tell it to him, man. I'm sure he'd be sitting there like, yep.
Yeah.
I like what we like to do on here. We'd like to listen to a story cold war and have our reaction on the show. And I think that would be awesome for you to hear his story and just be blown away. It's crazy. So I would hope that you guys would hey, just keep that in your back pocket for later.
It wasn't exciting at the time. At the time, it was fucking terrifying. Yeah, I still have a friend who won't even talk to me about it because he was there with me. Like he still to this day will not like we don't even speak anymore. We weren't even like we were really good friends, and now he just like doesn't want to talk about it. You know, that
Does
sucks.
he think that you're the bad Ukanuba in the relationship, or is it just a
I don't know.
situation?
I literally like after 20 years, I'm like, hey, you remember that night? And he just like straight up just like nothing. Like, nope,
Blocked.
I'm not talking to you about it. I'm like, okay, wow, okay. I guess we went two different directions on how we felt about that night.
Now I talk about it in front of people.
Yeah. Now I'm like, that's the thing is like our show was never meant. We didn't set out to talk about Sasquatch.
Mhm.
And I know now, I get this all the time from people who listen to shows like, man, did you guys find Bigfoot yet? And I'm like, bro, we're not even looking for him. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't found Bigfoot. I don't know where the hell to start looking for Bigfoot.
I see Bigfoot all the time, like in people's yards, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I go talk to him. I stop on the side of the road and go talk to him.
That's
I've been
awesome.
wanting to do that, but I feel like I'd get like arrested for soliciting. Solicitation.
Shot.
You got to wear pants when you do that, Tyler.
Well,
that is key.
Yeah. See, he's our guide in this podcast.
Yeah. Josh keeps us grounded.
So I want to ask,
keep him busy, I guess.
Have you seen any UFOs?
Oh yeah,
UFOs.
definitely. Actually, my buddy Craig, who's an expeditioner of ours, well, for Todd's, I mean, he's kind of like where I'm at with it all. Craig has a picture on his phone of a UFO, which is ballistic because it literally looks just like the Tic Tac, but it's a little bit longer, like a beam of light, but it's green and it has like different lights in it. It's wild. It's not a plane. It's like I can't really even I couldn't even draw it for you guys. Like it's crazy what the picture he has.
Would you say it's stories like more of like a cylinder style?
Yeah, it's like a cylinder kind of beam of light, probably like my microphone, but it's just all green. And like there's a couple little like whiter spots in it, I guess for windows. I don't know. It's not a plane. Planes don't glow green.
Right, yeah. Have you ever heard of the triangle? I mean, a lot of people down here see it all the time now in Kentucky. This black triangle with the lights and the and the thing's massive. That's the thing that they describe it to us. Like it's like a size of a football field.
That's so cool.
You guys ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I've actually I saw the Phoenix Lights documentary that they did, and I saw them somewhere else before I watched the documentary, and it pissed me off that they mocked those people about it, because they got to live with that kind of stuff. But no, I full well know and believe that there's definitely some UFOs out there, and they're not just robotically like on a different planet, like with a joystick, like, oh, let's go fuck with Arizona tonight, So I think there's definitely pilots in there, and you really can't shoot down, no pun intended, all those reports.
Good point. Actually, I have said on our show that I had a hard time believing that the aliens themselves were in the UFO, and the only reason I thought that is because there's no rule set. There's nothing that says that life has to be, or other life out there has to be just crazy amounts of years ahead of us. I thought, well, what if they're like 50 years ahead of us? 60 years ahead of us. We went from horse and buggy to shooting, shit into space. You know what I mean? In a matter of like what, 150 years? Not something even.
Like that, yeah.
So I'm like, what if they're like a little bit ahead of us, and what we're seeing is like they're drones? Not that they're messing with us, but
well,
for us, it's
I have one theory. If they are drones, then where's their base?
Oh yeah,
the moon.
There's people that believe that, and in the ocean too. I've heard
the moon's hollow.
Yeah, I've heard that too. People
Tyler's got a point. Tyler, what's going on, Tyler? What are you thinking?
I was about to say we had this discussion too about like the drones. Instead of an actual drone, it's more along the lines of a bio drone, something that's grown as it comes to Earth. Like it basically relays the information back to its home planet, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, it sounds like a sci-fi like movie idea, but like you got to think, like, are you going to actually waste your time, like your life, going to somewhere? And like we're saying, like, why do we have to believe that they're super advanced? We just because we do that in movies doesn't mean that these aliens are going to be the same. But we shoot like random like satellites and rockets, just throw it out there in space. Why didn't, like, they probably had some idea like, hey, why don't we just grow these like drones that we could like talk to and like get some information? It's like,
I mean, we're talking about things that are completely out of our physics range of just whatever. So, I mean, as far as we know, all life is carbon based, right? What if we're wrong? What if the
true.
crafts that we're seeing are them?
Like
There's,
the craft itself is them?
Yeah, like who knows?
Dude,
they're
that is a good point.
Transformers.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah, what if they are?
I want to see an alien now. Oh my god! I actually have a transformer on my arm.
Oh, sweet.
Dude, that's awesome.
I actually had read a theory that the highest probability of a life form that we might find would be a mechanical life form. You know,
I mean, that's the direction we're going.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Neuralink. Just for instance, nothing against Elon. He's a fucking awesome dude. He's a genius. But the Neuralink, it's basically just an implant in your head that does anything you want it to. Which I actually have an idea for Elon. If he's for some reason watching your guys' show, I have no idea why.
Pretty sure he's a fan. Yeah, I mean,
I think he's a Patreon.
Yeah,
he's gonna help these guys out.
That's why those Twitter accounts cost $8 now. He's got to pay for Patreon with us. He's a premium member.
How sweet would it be to have the Neuralink in, and you literally just like plug in a chip or like a USB port or something? You just plug this thing in, and download like Spanish. Go to bed, plug it in, wake up, and you just can speak fluent Spanish. And not have to sit for 7 years.
God, that would save me so much time.
Right.
The only problem I have with this is that, like, I'll set my computer to update when I'm in bed, and the next day I'll log in and it's still updating. That's the last thing I need is my alarm clock to go off for work, and I can't drive because I'm fucking downloading something. You know what I mean?
Like deleted half of your English language. You like
I get to work like, I'm here, boss.
I'm here, boss.
I forgot how to drive the truck, but I'm still downloading. Yeah.
But the bad thing about that too, like, yeah, that's cool and all. But dude, there's going to be an asshole out there that's going to hack your thing and like put like Rick Ashley in your head forever.
Or it'd be like the what the hell's that Jim Carrey movie when he starts typing on the thing and gets the guy to start saying it?
Was that
Bruce Almighty?
Bruce Almighty. Yeah.
It'd be like Bruce Almighty. Yeah.
So, or commit crimes too. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I've
randomly on the podcast, I start asking you guys about your car's extended warranty because I've been hacked.
You'll find a way.
Yeah.
But then
you'll be talking to somebody, and you all of a sudden you just be like, Spotify. You have like an ad break in your conversation.
Dude, don't even give them the ideas, because if they can figure out how to put ads in conversation, they will.
Yeah.
So I was driving my car. Hey, did you guys know about pools? Come to Tom's Pool Gallery.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking, like, I think we talked about this too. Is like, if we actually go towards that, where we're basically like, but taking a conscience, I can't say that word, and putting it into a robotic body. I think we said that like the mind would, like, your mind would break, like, because you're wanting to eat, breathe, like all these physical things that you've been doing for years, and now you can't do it. Like, would you cope with that?
Right. So I think another thing to think about too is we've only unlocked 10-15% of our brain power, so we really can't say that for sure, in my opinion. So I mean, if it's a learned task, I mean, granted, breathing isn't really a learned task, but I mean, with the technology that they'd have to have in order to have this as a possibility, they would have something in place where it would just feel like it, or it would just be like a neural thing
Yeah.
that you would just be like, yeah, I'm breathing, but you're just not. It'd be like a bypass.
I think
Yeah,
that
you
we're,
like act like you're eating, but you're like downloading food.
but I think what we're doing here is we're equating it to humans, and I think that's where we're getting off track. I think we need to think of this more like insects, because let's face it, the greatest population of any living creature on the planet is insects. And if they ever decided to take over, we wouldn't stand a chance. The spiders alone, sorry, Tyler, would kill us all.
Yo, I hate spiders.
So
I love you. I love you. We can. You want to start a podcast that just hates on spiders?
I'm right there. Let's do it.
So what if there
I'll subscribe.
were like self-aware nanobots?
Oh,
Some
yeah.
sort of biomechanical organism that's self-aware but acts more like the ants in our planet.
Like
The
a hive
ones
mind?
that will like build their own bridges and sacrifice themselves so that the rest of the hive can cross. So if we had self-aware nanobots that were whatever based, they could be hydrogen based or whatever, that could assemble themselves into a form of something like a spaceship because
wow.
because of aerodynamics, then maybe it wouldn't matter, because they wouldn't have that I have to eat, I have to reproduce, because their job task that they're pre-programmed with, like ants, would just drive them forward. Not every ant mates,
Yeah.
I only have
Wow.
one little kind of pin on that idea, is the fact that if you're right, which, like I said, it totally could be, Josh, you could totally be 100% on. Why would they come to Earth and just kind of like let 1,000 people see them and then just like dip out? Like, if there's a driving force to like recolonize or repopulate a planet?
I don't think it's that. I think it's resource. If you really look at most of all the UFO sightings, there's one major thing that's in common, and it's bodies of water. Whether the UFO UAP is a submersible unit, SAP, or not, almost all of your big major sightings happen around either above ground or underground water sources. So it could be just simple as they need the water.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you'd be 100% right. And I'll stand behind that. I will stand behind that. Yep. I'm going to go with that one, because that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I mean, it's not a hill I'm willing to die on, but it's just, it's a theory.
Right. But then again, still, like, why are they going over land? What's the purpose in that? Like, if they could just stay out over the ocean, they'd have like 6 fishermen see them like once every 50 years. Be like mermaids.
Speaking of fishermen, that's actually, I was watching these people catching these fish and tagging them and throwing them back in. And I know I told the guys this, but I was like, wow, I wonder from the fish's point of view, he just got pulled up into the ship into blinding light. He can't move because he's literally out of his element, right? And he just got a probe stuck up his butt and thrown back in the water. And I wonder if he tells the other fish, like, dude, I was in their ship, I saw them. And they're like, Frank, you're so full of shit, dude. You didn't see anything.
I'm telling you, God had a Budweiser hat and said, it's not yet your time.
Right? And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, dude, where are the fish? They come down, they grab one of us, they test on us, and they throw us back in the pond.
And it very well could be that. And the other thing could be, like, maybe the reason that they are going over land is it might be a competition thing. Like you said, if only 6 fishermen are out there and there's a bunch of them that are out over the water.
Is this pro fishing for humans?
Yeah, I thought we talked about this. Like, they have a well of us.
Yeah.
We're just flopping around.
Oh my god!
They're headed to the next fishing spot, man.
Do they grab us and hold us up? They're like, look at that one.
Somebody shot the gun and said the bass tournament's underway, and they're just going for their hole.
I took this one right out of his shower.
Look at that human.
What's the fastest boat on the water on a lake? Bass boat. Bass
yeah.
boats. Bass boats are always the fastest because the faster you get to the spot, the faster you can fish. Competition bass boats will outrun ski
Dude,
boats all
I
day
really
long.
As
don't
you think
want
about,
the secret of UFOs to end up being a pro human fishing
well,
tournament. Like,
okay,
I don't want that.
well, to
Man.
go more down that rabbit hole, think
Oh
about it.
God.
If they because everybody that says they see them, they say they can't hear it. Think about a trolling motor. You don't want your engine running, so it's always a hum. That's a
What
very
the hell is
low hum. So that's what it is. They're using their trolling motor to like kind of maneuver themselves
You,
over.
you're
They
sitting
have
there and the bait just kind of
some beef jerky.
Yo,
ooh.
I was just gonna say that. Yo, Jack Links? Hell yeah.
I got a question for you that's it's gonna be back in your neck of the woods, okay? But it's kind of related here. If there are UFOs visiting, which I mean, if you look at how many people have come forward and seen something or supplied video or even encounter stories, abduction stories. Do you think that the UFOs are interested in the big guy up north too? The big hairy ones?
Ooh, yeah, so funny you touch on that. There's a lot of, I'm sure you guys know, there's a lot of evidence out there that Sasquatch encounters are often in tandem with UFO sightings or some sort of, lights in the sky.
Yeah.
And I can't say that there's a connection other than the fact that we know that Sasquatch are drawn to a certain energy, maybe a certain energy field. And I have one expeditioner. His name is, I'm pretty sure it was either, might have been James, and he was talking about ley lines on the Earth, which is basically, you guys are nodding your heads, you know what I'm talking about. Then you guys can probably explain it better than I can, but it's basically like energy strips or bands that wrap around the Earth.
Yep.
And a lot of the times it runs through like a very well-known hotspot of Sasquatch habitat or, hotspot of UFO encounters. So I think if they're both kind of drawn to the same energy source, either for fuel or just for whatever, then you'll probably have multiple encounters like that. And that's really the only thing that I can think of drawing them together. Especially with like orbs too, because the way I see orbs is they're just giant balls of energy that just, it's so condensed and so consolidated that they put
Yeah.
off light, and
Yeah.
if they are their own separate entity or whatnot, then they're going to be drawn to a certain energy source also. So the fact that orbs and Sasquatch and UFOs all kind of seem to have this weird group together, maybe that's it.
Yeah. It's damn interesting in my opinion, because I've heard, we have a buddy, Robert Judd up Swan Lake Bigfoot. He's up in Canada, and he's got some really compelling stuff too. And he's seen the orbs happen around the Sasquatch, areas or whatnot. And he's even touched a little bit on like, seeing weird lights and things like that. And I thought, man, I almost wonder if the damn things are trying to abduct them too. Because it would be an interesting. I mean,
Right.
if you were here studying life on Earth,
That would
this
be
would
like the
be
ultimate trophy fish.
it would be an ultimate thing to like, hey, we've got this humanoid over here that's industrious as hell, and we seen what they do, and we got this one. This one's different. Why wouldn't they?
I wonder if they genetically made the Sasquatch and are just like, this one's going to be a hard one to catch.
Right? these are different.
Yeah.
Good luck. But it is interesting because there's like an interesting halfway point in regards to all these topics where everybody starts to kind of meet in the middle. And I've noticed it lately. I mean, how do you say it nicely? But in the Sasquatch community, that when they start to gather, they start to war about their opinions. Some people are like this. Some people, like, as soon as you bring up orbs, man, they shut it down right then and there. You bring up Sasquatch being a spiritual being or a, whatever, like telepathic being, they shut it down. You know what I mean? Dude, there's some circles you bring up Todd's name and they shut you down instantly. I know I brought up Steve Isdall's name the other night on Brian's show, and they shut me down. And for me, it's kind of an interesting experiment because I'm like, hey guys, all of you are kind of looking at the same subject matter here. Where do we meet in the middle?
Yeah,
We've
no,
got
I feel that too. And the thing with it is like I'm one for bringing the entire Sasquatch community together. I'd love for all of this. I'd love to have the puzzle in front of us and just be able to pop, and okay, that's why we're connected. I'd love to be able to just have everybody unite and just for the same goal. And same with the Sasquatch community. But when you're gonna be a douchebag about certain things, I'm not gonna respect you or your opinion, especially
no,
if you come after me. So it's one of those things. Like I deal with haters too,
yeah.
obviously, and we gotta figure something out. So you're right, I'm kind of in that spot too, where it's like, how are we supposed to get all these people, all these crazy different theories together to make it into one that actually makes sense?
Are you
So,
familiar with organized religion? Because that hasn't worked.
God,
like
That
a
hasn't
cult?
that hasn't
you guys,
worked at all for the last 1,200 years. So
Yeah.
you guys are killing me. Denny's asking the connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. It's literally about to say that, and as we were talking, I was thinking about organized religion. God, you guys need to get out of my mind.
It's like we're finishing each other's
Sandwiches.
sandwiches. But no,
Well, yeah.
it is though. It's true.
So,
Sorry,
it's real.
Tyler. You go ahead. That's all I want to say was it's true. It's literally how it's going down. And you can't find any middle ground. So let's find some middle ground, Tyler. Back to you.
well, okay, to get kind of go just into the Sasquatch, I've heard that the orbs, some say that they are spirits of the other, like, passing Sasquatch. Have you ever
I've heard that
heard?
too.
Yeah, like, because I don't know if I can grasp that. It's like it's so hard for me. I don't know. I've never saw. I guess I haven't like actually like seen personal pictures that I've took to see orbs or any of that nature to say that it might be a spirit or anything, but to like why are they so prominent around Sasquatch? Like I remember you saying like balls of energy, that's what they're might be attracted to. So I don't know. Like that's like the ball, like the orbs are something that I can't grasp. I want to, because they're always out there. Like everybody has their own opinion about it, but I can't find one that really like kind of like says like, yeah, that sounds right.
So the reason I base my speculation with what I have is I another account that I heard of. I don't remember where it was. I've heard so many of them, but a lady was having orbs kind of just like flow through her house and stuff like that, and they were different colors. Like one was red, and one was blue, and like yellow and stuff like that. And they were big. They were like softball size. So the one night, they came through her house and she watched them go like through a window. Like it was the screen and the window was open and they went out that window. And when she took the screen out, you could see like the two kind of like little weird indents where they had passed through. So she took it to like a radiology thing at the college and they discovered traces of radiation in the in those spots where you could clearly see like a deformity where like if you took a screen, like tossed a softball at it where it would kind of like imprint a little bit of like a quarter bowl or whatever, it was just like that. And they found radiation in it. So for me, radiation is energy. So that is just what is kind of coming together and making sense for me is that they're just condensed energy that just collects together and either recharges somewhere or collects it. And that's just
Yeah.
kind of what they do.
Plus,
Whether
I
they're
mean,
their own beings or not, I don't know.
yeah, the actual light itself. I mean, that's usually like it's photons, right? And photons are solid. I mean, we don't feel them because they're tiny, but photons literally bump into each other. I mean, there's even a theory that they can be used as a propellant, to actually move around in space eventually. If concentrated light, sorry, is it's powerful enough and focused that a little flash should be able to bump an object.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah.
going down that rabbit hole a little bit more, There's obviously the thing called atoms, and apparently no atoms ever touch. So if you smack your hand on the table, there's like a 1 in like a couple million chance that your hand will pass through the table because the atoms will be lined enough that they won't touch.
I'm gonna be sitting
So
here hitting my table
yeah, you're
all night.
smacking the I was thinking about doing
I'm
that
doing
too.
it right now.
You know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna
Can you do it
record
with your hand?
9,999,000 of them, and the one that the camera dies is gonna be the one that'll happen.
Yeah, it'll pass through.
Or they'll be
I'm
like,
going to be doing
it's a
this all
puppet.
night.
Yeah.
So
But
with that, I mean, if you're a conscious enough being, I would imagine that you can change your atomic structure, right? And you'll be able. I mean, if you're that in touch with what you are as a being, then you'll be able to pass through objects. So
Yeah.
ghosts, orbs, other crazy things
Yeah.
that do stuff that we cannot explain.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, it makes sense, you know. But I mean, when you know, when it comes to these subjects, even that one, it's like you kind of run into this thing where like we can sit here and just like four dudes just bullshitting about it, you know, and throwing some ideas back and forth and entertaining ideas. But you start getting out there, and just my experience, getting out there and talking to more people, and you start getting shut down big time. But then go and look, and there's a lot of science backing a lot of this stuff. It just, the individual topics science backs. But when you focus them all into like, hey, this orb is a spiritual being traveling through the universe, that's where they're like, nah, sorry.
Yeah, well, I think it's
You know?
a comfortability thing. You know, like if I brought you out to my research area and said, yeah, there's a 900-pound Sasquatch standing about 50 feet away from you, and it's up to him if you live or die. You're gonna be like, no, I want to go home. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the bottom line is that's a scary thing to know that that's real. So when you think of an orb that's interdimensional and can just do whatever it wants and nobody knows about it really other than the people who see it, you're going to be like, I don't want to think that that exists, and you're just going to shut that off out of your mind. So there's those people out there who say, you're allowed to have this box, and if you come out of that box, I'm going to close you back in it because I don't want to know.
Right.
Because
That's true.
I'm either too scared and don't want to admit it, or because no.
Yeah.
So
I think last night I just watched a documentary called Sleepless Unrest, where these folks went to the original Conjuring house, the house that the Conjuring was based on, right?
Awesome.
And there's a lot of orbs and tons of activity, and you can clearly see the distress on these folks, you know, everything about them. And I would have to say, like, hey, you know, if orbs wanted to be studied and understood, maybe they should stop doing spooky shit. Because these people were literally terrified. And then when they went home, this is the part that it didn't get me. They go home and all of them took something from the house, and all of them are still being haunted by this shit at their own
That's what
homes.
you get for doing stupid stuff.
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe not mess with stuff we don't understand. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I want to know, who is the person that's out there weighing Sasquatch? I've heard so many people say 800, 700, 900,000 pound creatures, but who the hell's weighing them?
Well, we can base this off of kind of, so just like we do with bears. I mean, you see a footprint and you're like, damn, that fucking footprint's deep as hell. And you 220-pound guy and you stomp on it next to you, you know, same grass, same same soil, everything like that. You jump on it and you take your foot off and you can't even see the damn thing. That's probably in excess of 300 or 400 pounds to leave an impression, you know? So when you think about the actual size, I mean, they're 9 foot plus and they're damn near 5 foot wide and they're packed with muscle.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a 400-pound animal or being. I think that's probably double that. I mean, gorillas, they're huge, right? How big do they get?
What, 450 all the way up to 700-800 pounds?
700 pounds.
Real big ones are 700.
Right. Now, as far as we know, Sasquatch are twice the size of gorillas. So I think an 800-pound mark on we'll say typical 8.5 foot tall Sasquatch, I think that's not too far out of the ball game. You know, especially when a 250-pound guy can stomp all his weight with 60 pounds of gear on his back and not leave a mark in a piece of grass next to that track when it's 2 inches deep in solid soil, you can't say that's not anything over or anything less than 500 pounds.
So, I mean, okay, I've watched some of Todd's live streams. Like I've jumped in and I've caught him, and I always like say hi, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people talking, so it's you get lost in the sea of fans, you know, and haters, I guess. And I'm like, hey guys, you know, I'm just here to learn and listen, you know. And there was one live stream I caught where he was talking about he was more on the spiritual side of the creature, and he was going into that, and I kept typing in messages, asking questions, and like I said, man, there's a lot of fans on there talking, so I was getting kind of buried in it, and I'm like, damn it, you know, and everybody's asking about orbs and stuff, and everything I was looking like interested in was, I'm like, we're talking what, 20 something years of research, right? I mean, at least, I mean, this is a dude that's like crazy passionate about this subject. So the questions I had were honestly like really, I guess, easy ones. Maybe they were boring. I don't know, but I'm like, what's the gestational period like? What's the pregnancy like? What's the mating rituals like? You know what I mean? How is nesting done? Et cetera, so forth. How fast does a baby grow? When is he big enough to stand up? You know, stuff like that. Like in 20 years, I expect some of this stuff to not be a mystery anymore.
Yeah, you know, and like most of our research is kind of just calculated estimations. So that's kind of what this whole everything I'm about to say is. So we know that chimpanzees are extremely close to the DNA line of humans, right? The zoos give female chimpanzees human birth control to control their birth, you know, their cycle. That's how close they are, right? So now chimpanzees and humans cannot interbreed, right? We're not close enough on the DNA spectrum in order to create viable offspring. Horses and what was the other one? They create donkeys. I should know this.
Mules. It's donkeys and
mules. Thank you. Mine blanked out there for a second. But they can create offspring, but they're not viable offspring because they're sterile. They can't. So there's 19 cases proven by science where there is you're gonna blow up on me. Sasquatch mated with humans and created viable offspring to the point that it bred back into the Sasquatch population. So that means that they are so closely related to us that they're very well likely have, if not identical, very similar birth cycles and menstrual cycles.
Okay. That was one of my I was really curious about that was, you know, does Sasquatch, does she PMS? I mean, is she ornery? I mean,
this cave is a pigsty.
Yeah, like I got the wife like right there, so I'm trying to, I'm trying to get answers without dying.
Scrape punches you in the face.
I'm just curious, like, is this a real thing? You know what I mean? Like, does female Sasquatch have her time of the month, and is she pissy? Does she do things? Does she chuck rocks at you? That's what I want to know. I'm sorry.
Presumably.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say likely.
Gotcha. Okay. Does male Sasquatch like get away during this?
That's probably why they come visit us sometimes. They're just like, I got to get away from the wife.
You got kicked out of the area for a while.
She threw a 300-pound boulder at me, man.
Oh man.
Man, that's
it. Actually, man, you know what? That actually led me to a question I wanted to ask you before, but I was like, you know what? Have you ever been there? I mean, and you saw a couple males go at it, like battle it out?
No. Well, my first encounter might have been something like that, but I didn't hear any grunting or breathing, or I didn't see any movement. But I haven't seen two Sasquatch fighting. Todd, however, has found evidence of two Sasquatch fighting, and if you want to hear about that, I'll get into that.
Yeah, by all means. I'm Curious Denny. That's what they call me.
Curious Denny. All right, Curious Denny. So So, how do I start this? Okay, so every tribe has a territory. So within the boundaries of that territory, um, I'm pretty sure that some other Sasquatch are led into the tribe based off of what they either bring to the table, or like I said before, with varying their genetic code so that there's no interbreeding going on in that tribe. So Todd found evidence of where they use like roads and streams and stuff like that as natural barriers for their territory. So he found a structure on one side of the stream and a structure on our side of the stream, which is our territory. Now, our big male, his name is Seeger, and he's 9 foot and probably all of 900, 1,000 pounds. He's a freaking monster. He's 5 foot, 6 foot wide at the shoulders. Insane how huge this guy is. I've seen his tree breaks. They're ridiculous. I have no idea how the hell these trees are being broken like that. But so there was two structures. Obviously, one was huge and the other one was just as big. And Todd was in the area, and I don't know. He heard it. He was like 7 or 8 miles away, and he heard the trees and shit being broken. Like there's no lights over there. Like he can see a ways, but you just hear utter chaos for 10, 15 minutes, and then it stops. And then back again. And he was like, I don't even want to be close to that. I want nothing to do with that at the moment. I don't know if you know grizzly bears, when they fight, the people who take those pictures are absolutely risking their lives. Grizzly bears, when they fight, their adrenaline is just so rampant. They'll literally stop what they're doing and they'll both go and attack you and kill you and then resume fighting.
Jesus. They're like,
Yeah.
You know what? Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy. So, and there was actually a case, I think 3 men on horseback were watching 2 grizzly bears fight. They stopped, turned, and killed all 3 of them, and they were armed.
Jesus.
Yeah. So like, no good bedfellow. He wanted nothing to do with that, and I don't blame him. So after like a day or two, when the chaos had stopped, he went and hiked out to that area, and he had found the remnants of the structure on the other side of the stream, which would have been an opposing territory versus the one that is ours, and that structure was still there. So what we can gather from that, and you could see like in just like a 50, 60 yard area where there's just trees torn out of the ground and destroyed, and there's footprints everywhere. No blood or anything like that, no hair that he really wanted to stick around to try to find. But you could tell some crazy stuff had happened there, and that structure was torn down, which means that, if let's say you invade a country, right? As soon as you get in there, you're ripping her flag down. You're putting yours up. Probably the same thing. So the fact that our tribe won, his fort or his structure stayed standing and the other one didn't.
Yeah.
That's about the only time I've ever heard of 2 Sasquatch actually fighting over territory. And that's a scary thing too, if you think about it. So if you have a main dominant male Sasquatch who is like Seeger, just a beast and a monster, eventually he's going to get old. Eventually he's not going to be able to hold up to a younger, stronger Sasquatch. That's just how life works. So if in that case where it is a male dominated society, you're going to have a younger, stronger male come in and eventually take over. So what does that mean for the family group? What does that mean for the tribe? Does that mean that Seeger's daughters are going to get killed off because it's his offspring? What does that mean for the entire tribe? So we really are under time constituents with this troop, because we don't know how old Sasquatch live. They could live to be 40. They could live to be 70. We don't really know, No. So Todd's been there for 20 years, right about, studying this group. If Seeger was already in his 30s, that means he's in his 50s. Yeah. How much longer do we have until another Sasquatch comes in, beats Seeger, and takes over the tribe? Are we ever going to get contact again? Is it going to now turn into he kills all of them and we never see him again? Is it going to be, okay, he lets them come around us and everything's fine? Probably not. So there really is time constituents against us. So I'm hoping that I get another, 10 years with that troop or tribe.
In that, do they bury their dead? Like, where's, you know what I mean? Because I know a lot of people are going to ask us, well, where's the bodies? That's what we hear all the time.
Do you think they eat them?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they're cannibalistic towards their own family members. I think, well, if you go back into like way back native folklore, the Sasquatch have all different names, you know, in each tribe. So most of them translate to either tall teacher of the woods or wild hairy man of the woods or something that they really
Big
looked
brother.
up to. Yeah, or they really respected. So and they lived off the land just like the Sasquatch did. So my only inclination is that they learned a lot of their rituals and their survival tactics through the Sasquatch. So if the Sasquatch bury their dead, why do we bury our dead? I think it's the same thing. They just learned to do that, and it became how we
Yeah.
do it now. Which would be a crazy thing to suggest that we actually bury our dead because we were taught by the Sasquatch to do such. But it makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, that's why we don't find bodies. And if
I mean, yeah, because we've got evidence of Neanderthal burying their dead. You know what I mean? So that means that Sasquatch would have had to been back then teaching them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's, you know, and to think about it that far back in just the human evolution, that we knew better than to just leave bodies lying all over the floor.
Yeah.
You know, because not only predators, but infections, diseases, viruses, you get sick
Yeah.
when you sit around dead bodies.
So when I hear like, you know, when I hear like the lures and the behavioral, you know what I mean? The suggestions of like the behavioral patterns and things like that of the Sasquatch, I can't help but wonder. I mean, you look back at like the Gigantopithecus argument. I call it an argument because I'm like, man, all we have is some molars. We
Right.
don't really know what this Gigantopithecus was actually like, and was it, you know, what I mean? Did now could you go back and say, well, the Gigantopithecus buried its dead? You know what I mean? How would we know?
Well, not only that, Gigantopithecus is like localized to Southeast Asia too.
I mean, that's the only place they found the molars, you know.
Right.
But
And
they found the molars.
right. But that's why I usually try to ignore Gigantopithecus and lean towards Meganthropus, if anything. You know,
Okay,
that makes
I
more
guess what
sense.
you mean. Yeah, my thing was that Gigantopithecus is so rare of a find. All we have is some molars, but we have those molars,
Right.
but we don't have molars from a Sasquatch that we know of. Maybe
That's true.
somebody does. I don't know, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
part of
that's a
that's
big argument, you know.
part of that's due to the fact that they're so far out there. I mean, if they lose a tooth, you're never going to find that thing.
It's like a needle in a haystack.
It's like 10 needles it's like one needle in 10 haystacks. It's going to be impossible to find that. Now, then,
Yeah.
even if you DNA cross it, it's going to come up contaminated as human. Like all of the DNA does because they're part freaking human.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard that. I've actually heard that. That's been corroborated a lot by some honestly some pretty big names in science that I mean we have this DNA, but you know, it's partially human, so it's like we have an what do they call it? Oh god, I just read this too. It was unclassified primate. And what did Jane Goodall was even like, hey, we have an undiscovered primate. Like, guys, you know what I mean? We need to go and look for this thing or whatever. But still, I mean, people come, you know, they even come at us, you know, and I don't even think we're not even real Bigfoot people. You know what I mean? We're just interested. And they'll come at us and go, well, where's the bodies? Where's the body? You need a body. Like we know, Dad. You know what I mean? We know.
It's just one of those impossible things that you just can't get.
Yeah.
You know, like if you know well enough where a burial mound is or wherever they bury their dead, you're not making it out of there to even really find it because it's probably such a sacred and protected area to them, just like the natives.
Yeah.
You can't just walk onto a native reserve and be like, oh, let me go check out, you know, your cemetery. They're going to be like, no.
Yeah. And then people build a freaking house on it. And then, well, we saw Poltergeist.
Yeah.
I mean, so we know how that turns out.
Yeah, except you'll just have 9-foot Sasquatch knocking their plates off the wall instead.
I've heard of people saying somebody I just had heard this. They said that they thought that Sasquatch was the spirit of the ancient ones walking the forest, and that's why we have such a hard time catching them and all this. That's pretty interesting.
I will get back to you on that, but Tyler, I know you had something to say.
I was just wondering, do you think that's what the tree structures are? like burial sites, or
No.
do you think it's like some type of? I think Denny said it like a long time ago that it might be like a kind of a ritual, like birthing area.
Ooh,
That's what
that's a
like
good
they kind
idea.
of.
And maybe the only thing is like usually ritualistic events take place on very spiritual land where it's like I said, protected, just like the grave sites are going to be. So the fact that we find them kind of just like in random places doesn't make sense. So to me, I don't think they're anything really either more than uh what's it called? Like a monument. They're either a monument, a display of force or power or intimidation, or they're just some sort of sign, maybe like a crossroad or like the tree breaks are going to be just like don't come this way. Um, I don't really know. Honestly, it's just one of those
Yeah,
things that's I don't even really know what to say about it. They're
yeah,
they're amazing.
we've had different like theories on the whole tree breaks and stuff of that. We kept thinking that it might be mapping, like to show like, okay, I went this way and it breaks it that way, and kind of, I guess, like if somebody's like ahead, like the male of the alpha male, if you will, of the group is going ahead, and it's basically showing the
Navigation.
navigation for the group behind him, and that's like, and that goes with the whole whooping sounds. Like, you always, like, when you hear a whoop, you're going to look to that direction. They're probably trying to mislead you so some, like, the other group could get away. Like like that's kind of like where I get, if the I keep saying it like I've actually heard this stuff. I haven't, but that's my interpretation from hearing from other people that has had this experience.
Yeah, and you're really close, Tyler. From what I understand it as too. So we have evidence out in our research area where it's 5 or 10 year old tree break, and you can tell by the when you see a tree break like fresh that year, it's still green. The next year, it's starting to get red. Next year, you can tell as the years go by, the progression of the tree actually deteriorating. You can see how long ago it was broken. So we have tree breaks, 5, 10 years old that are pointed in one direction, and then you know that's about the time where that road was built, or that's about the time that that's the first time I went down that trail was 10 years ago. I came back and that was a fresh tree break 10 years ago, and then you go back, in 5 years or whatever, and you take that same trail, then you go back and look, and there's a brand new tree break in the same spot, pointed in the same direction, broken the same way, but it's brand new. So for us, it's like there's people there type thing. So it's kind of like a sign, like we have deer crossings. It's kind of like people crossing. So, and I think there's multiple different reasons that they do it. It's not just like one cut and dry reason. This probably,
Mhm.
and because we have tree breaks all over the research area where they're just pointed at the trailer. Literally, like the trailer's in a field, and there's a tree break all the way around it that are just pointing at the tree break, or they're pointing at our gifting hill. And they're random trees, and they're broken, entirely too clean to be just like splintered from snow load. And we go out there all the time, and there's no wind. There's no snow when we go out there. The moose don't come around, let alone you would see if a moose or a whitetail or something rubbed on that tree and snapped it with its antler, because there'd be bark everywhere. There'd be sign, there'd be footprints. It's none of that. It's literally just this amazing, like perfectly compressed tree break pointed in a specific direction where either people are, or there's a road, or there's food. And it's kind of just either one of those three.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the tree break thing makes sense for navigation for sure.
Yeah.
The structures though, I can't justify it for anything other than maybe shelter. Why would you waste the energy for any other purpose?
Well, let me ask you this, Josh. If you were stupid strong and were bored and you wanted to show off to people how strong you were, what are you going to do?
Beat the crap out of the next male.
Okay, well, there's that. But
and take over that tribe and continue my legacy even further.
But
I wouldn't waste the time to build a structure for nothing other than showing off how strong I am.
yeah, and that's how they are. They're an intimidating species,
Yeah.
So
That's like in humans. That's like more of a that's the inkling of somebody that's like a weak, small person, but has power over other people. Do that, like
as like a monument type thing.
like weaselly little politicians over the centuries. Your kings, your rulers, the people that aren't really that strong, but they have power over other people who are. That's that kind of behavior. It just doesn't make sense to waste energy. That energy is finite for these. You've got to consume what you put out.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just kind of going off of that. Like, I'm not like denying what you're saying too, but if you look back in history, like, okay, why did we just start doing sports? Like, we wanted to show off our abilities or skills and shit like that. So, but we're talking about some like a.
Are you sure? Because if we're talking like gladiatorial games, that was kings and rulers putting slaves out there as a spectation.
Well, yeah, I get that. I understand that. Like, yeah, they were still fighting each other, but I meant like just your regular games, like. Okay, let's talk about like Celtic or like is it like Scottish, like the log throw.
Yeah, caber tossing.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's showing like the
They were log
sports.
throwing.
They're log throwing.
Maybe they're like, dude, guys.
That's
If you get it stuck in a tree, you're awesome.
So yeah.
So every picture from here on out from Bigfoot, I want to see him in a kilt.
Yeah.
Well, there's also another intriguing fact with those structures that we find is they're always stacked in a clockwise formation. So each tree, the next one on top of the next one, is in a clockwise rotation. So the bottom one will always be, it won't always be like one facing direction, but at the bottom one, there'll be whatever other ones will be spiraled in like a counterclockwise type, where the next one was just laid on top. So it would spiral kind of up.
Maybe Bigfoot's got one short leg.
Maybe.
Sundial? Like trying to tell the time?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's interesting. I read somewhere, I know a person I'll admit that when I was reading this, the person was saying that they communed with the Sasquatch on a regular basis, using telepathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very skeptical of telepathy. I can't help it. It's, that's a line that I'm like, well, we don't have a whole lot of that happening in nature. So, but this person said that the big tree structures layered and whatnot were built as a celebration of a new child being born. And I thought, well, that, if nothing else, that's elegant and it's beautiful. Yeah. And I could get on board with it.
And what if it's not just a celebration? What if it's a manger of sorts,
Yeah. I mean,
because those trees had leaves on them at one point.
Yeah.
A place of birth, like you said before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought that was pretty awesome. Like,
what's the most vulnerable time for a female of any species?
Giving birth.
Right. She could be attacked by any predator at that point. So if they had a place
like a
to
pop-up
go,
shelter.
Yeah.
You're like, just get it real quick while she goes into labor.
It's a Bigfoot easy up.
Yeah. And that's the perfect thing. You don't have to pack luggage. You don't have to run to the hospital. You just break some trees and put some leaves. You're good.
I like it.
And that rhymed. I didn't mean for that to happen.
Poet didn't even know it.
Yep.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to throw this out there too, like to go on the whole, like, kind of like, I guess the show of strength that you're talking about. Okay, then what about the bluff charge? Why did, like, if they're pissed that you're there, why would they bluff you? Like, if I was pissed and I wanted to protect whatever, like my clan, my tribe or whatever, I just beat the shit out of you and call it a day.
Right. And that's the thing where Sasquatch are remaining the world hide and seek champions, because they don't want to show themselves. And if you get yourself to a point where Sasquatch is pissed off enough at you to bluff charge you, and it's very clearly a Sasquatch, you need to get out of there. You need to leave, because that will happen eventually. You decide to just pop up a tent and sleep right there, you're probably not going to come back. That's a
I mean,
terrible idea.
is that like the last warning or
I would
what?
take it as the last warning. Yeah.
Okay.
That would definitely be like, okay, he's upset. And
Yeah.
you like I said before, you're entirely at their mercy. If they want you dead, it is nothing for them to kill you.
That to me shows a higher intelligence. I mean, think of a bull. You know, a bull is like he don't bluff shit. He's like,
Bears
I'm
do.
about to, you know,
Bears
I'm
do.
about to. That's true.
The bears do, and the reason bears do it is because they don't want to use the energy up
Right.
unless they know for a fact they have to kill you,
Yep.
because they'd rather use the energy to hunt.
Well, there's also that
can
is
go
it a
back to
threat
what
for
we were
me?
talking about. Yeah.
Right.
What was that, Kyle? Sorry, I missed that last thing.
Sorry.
No, I was kind of going off what Josh was saying. You know, it's also the reason bears bluff charge is because they don't, like you said, don't want to expel that energy, but they also don't know if you're a threat to them or not. And if you're a threat and they're going to get hurt, they want nothing to do with it.
Right.
Is
Oh,
it kind of
I'm-
like the whole like if you don't want to go attack somebody out in the public because you don't know if they know karate or something? Because
Yeah,
I do
exactly.
that too.
That's
I'll beat my
yeah.
chest here and there, but I'm like, this guy might know some like
Might have some
MMA
moves,
stuff.
yeah.
He might
Right,
have
what-
some moves.
And you got to
That's-
figure wild animals don't have doctors or hospitals. So if they get into a battle, they risk death by minor
Absolutely.
energy. So anything to stay out of the fight unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. Plus, they've had to have seen us by now. They know what we're capable of.
Yeah,
I mean,
they very well are.
They know that we can hit back. You know,
Yeah, like
usually we
guns
got a
and stuff.
loaded chamber ready to
Yeah.
hit back if we need to. But I mean, they had to have seen that at all this time. They had to be like, okay, these guys are little and they're weak, but they have some firepower. So let's
They
bluff
know-
them, throw some shit at them, and get them out of here.
They know what firearms are for sure. And they're not going to give you a chance to shoot at them either. They're going to make themselves known. They're going to throw some shit at you and scare the shit right out of you. And you're
Yeah.
going to leave. And that's the end of it. And
Gotcha.
hopefully that's the end of it. You know, like I said,
Right.
I wouldn't stay. If a
I have
Sasquatch,
seen.
if a
I'm sorry.
Sasquatch bluff charged me in a new area, I wouldn't go back. And that's strictly out of mutual understanding and respect. I'm not going to
Okay,
keep trying.
That kind of answered my question. I was asking if that ever happened to you.
Yeah.
A bluff charge.
Yeah, fair. Like I said, my first encounter might have been something like that. I just didn't know at the
okay.
time. You know, you hear shit like trees being snapped off 50 feet away from you. You're expecting something to run out of the trees and nothing does. It very well could have been a bluff charge.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Honestly, man, it's a mind blowing subject. All of it, you know, the stuff you guys do up there, you know, and the time you spend out there learning and all that. I don't know, like if I would have the fortitude to do it. You know what I mean? I feel like I would probably end up getting myself into some situation I'd probably never come home from because I'd want to peek. I want to see. You know.
Mhm.
You said
Yeah.
the other on Brian's, you said that your goal was to have, you know, an apple taken from your hand, you know.
Yeah.
How do you go from say point A right here to that being point B? How do you get to that? What
Well,
is
there's got to be some sort of basic trust in between, you know, me and whichever Sasquatch that's going to be. So I have to habituate with that troop. And if it means spending weeks at a time out there and showing them that I just want nothing but to communicate with them, I mean them no harm. I'm just curious. And when they do come 15 damn feet away from me, I'm not trying too many stupid things. Hopefully, I'll be able to gain their trust in some amount that I'll be able to just kneel down and not look at them and just hold my hand out. And it doesn't have to be an eye contact thing. I'm not going to stand up. I'm going to just be full submit. It's yours. But I just want that, you know. And if it takes me 15 years for that to happen, then that's what it's going to take, you know. So I'm not going out there with the intent that this needs to happen this year or I give up. This is just a strictly, you know, kind of like a bucket list item, and I'm working towards it. And I don't mean any harm by it. It's just strictly I trust in it. I immensely trust and respect them. I feel protected when I'm out there. You know, we have a spot out there called Bear Alley. You have to go through Bear Alley to get to our campsite. Now, Bear Alley is Bear Alley for a reason. I walked out there by myself with no one else around with a pair of binoculars and nothing else. The bears do not come out around me. I've been there for a solid month. About the same time when the bears are out trying to get all the berries they can, trying to stock up for winter, I haven't
Yeah.
seen a single one. They don't come around me. The next week I leave, 2 other people come in, there's 12 of them. They don't come around me. So for me, it's almost like a protective kind of thing, which not a lot of people get. So I do feel special in that kind of aspect. So I'm going to push my luck with that. Hell yeah. I'll walk
Gotcha.
around there all day unarmed because I feel totally protected, and I feel like I'm the boss of the woods until one of them comes out. Then I'm not.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to have that. You have to have that predator energy too. You can't walk around like I hope a bear doesn't come around, because
Yeah.
if you act like a deer, you're gonna end up feeling like bears can sense that.
Yeah.
So you have to walk around like I'm tough shit, and if you come and you step towards me, I'm gonna kill you, and you have to have that mindset. It's the only way to get around out there. And that same thing goes for the mountain lions too. You know, like you got to watch your high ground, obviously, and whatnot. You got to keep your eye out, but you just have to have that. I'm the biggest, baddest thing in here. Do not step to me. And if a Sasquatch notices that, they'll probably come out to you. They'll probably be like, I'm going to challenge you to that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
That's the thing to me is I always wonder, it to me, everything I've heard, all the behaviors, and I mean, I'm talking collectively from all sides. I can't see it as just an animal.
no, it's not.
Impossible for me to see it as just an animal. It's a type of person.
Yep.
So there's too much complexities going on for it to be just an animal.
Can we
There may
talk
be
about
behaviors.
one thing before we start branching into this?
Absolutely.
And I know that the telepathy thing is hard for you to understand, but do you know what ESP is, or not?
Extrasensory perception.
Well,
Yes.
there's that, but I meant to say infrasound.
Absolutely.
You know what that is, right?
Absolutely.
You know
yeah.
that it's 100% real.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Gorillas
I'm a musician.
use
Yeah.
Gorillas use it. Todd was at the zoo, and a gorilla came charging at him, knocked him out with infrasound. And the zookeeper's like, yeah, it happens all the time.
Mhm.
What makes you think that a Sasquatch that spends his entire life on his spirituality and connecting with nature doesn't have that power, if not tenfold?
Yeah. To me, though, the ability to manipulate frequencies and sound is, I mean, that would be something where you're just born with it. You're either born with it or not. We can get down to what, 80 hertz at the very lowest.
Yeah.
We can get a maximum of what, 8,000 hertz, and that's like your best operatic singers.
Wow.
But something that can generate that. I mean, you're talking a major, huge lung. And the infrasound thing I won't challenge because there's precedent for that. We have that everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Tigers use it.
Telepathy.
Peacocks use it.
Yep.
I have a hard time with telepathy because it's if we're comparing infrasound, which is manipulation of frequency and vibration, through sound, to projecting and receiving thoughts remotely. That's where I kind of have trouble, because where does that happen in nature? If it's just this one creature, why?
Okay. Let me ask you about fire ants. You ever had any bad experiences with fire ants?
Oh yeah, yeah.
How do they all
Unfortunately.
manage to bite all at the exact same time? Now there's 4 on your neck, there's 3 in your shoe, there's 1 or 2 in your armpit, and there's 1 or 2 in your waistband.
Yeah.
And they all like that bite?
Yeah.
That's not a pheromone. A pheromone takes time to get out and get around. So if it was a pheromone, it wouldn't be instantaneous. It would be like the first 2 would bite you, and then all of a sudden these, and then the ones in your waistband, and then the ones on your leg, and then the ones on your feet.
Okay.
So if ants have the basic, the most, some of the most basic insects on Earth have some sort of communication that's instantaneously acted out, why can't a Sasquatch do that with us?
Yeah. I've read a little bit into this as far as the hive command and all that in regards to that and how they transfer signals from one to the other. It is fascinating. I mean, even the hive itself is designed to send signals back and forth. You know what I mean? It's like a computer system in there. It's
You know
amazing.
that Les Stroud was mind spoken to, and he talked about this openly. He talks about this openly. Les Stroud was out in Todd Standing's research area and was mind spoken to by one of the Sasquatch.
Yeah, I believe I watched his director's commentary on that. Not even a few nights ago.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild.
Yeah, so it's out of the norm. But look at the topic we're on, guys. I mean, we're just talking about Sasquatch ghosts. You know, like and we have proven and solid evidence of it. So the fact that a being that's so far more in touch with itself and its inner being and its inner spirituality, not having the capabilities of that is a little bit kind of far-fetched, you know. And we're not at the same frequency they are. We have to dumb ourselves down to that frequency in order to even get to that point. You have to be basically a zombie in order to receive those frequencies. When I work on opening my pineal gland and I feel it open, I'm like drooling, because you have to be just so mind dead to open it. That's the only way that they can communicate with you. If you're running around, you're going, I got to pay my electric bill, and you know, my girlfriend's pregnant, and my wheel bearing's bad on my car, and which none of those I don't have those problems. I'm just saying.
Okay, I was gonna say bad time to announce this stuff,
right? Yeah. But just for anybody, you know, like if you have those things just reeling around in your head, you're way too high of a frequency. You're astronomical in your brain power. You need to chill out. And that's what the whole connecting with nature thing is with us. You know, you come out and you just like chill and you forget about that stuff and you just watch the birds and just enjoy nature, and you get that fresh air through your lungs and you just relax, forget about it. And that's when they start to come out. And that's what we started noticing, that, okay, maybe this whole telepathy and mind speak and stuff actually is doing something. So when we start actually getting into that and practicing it out in the field, then we get incredible results that are too impossible to fake or too much of a coincidence to just write it off. Then of course we're going to keep going down that aisle. You know, like, I don't know if I'm pretty sure I talked about it with Brian on that show. Was Todd, you know, he had his pineal gland open and you can feel it. I don't know if you guys have ever experimented with it or not, but it's like, you know, the numbing between your eyes, and his head was like aching. We go out in the morning and he's like, you know, like, I got to go over there. So we go over there, you know, in the woods, neither of us are armed. And he's like, kneel down here. So I kneel down, and bunch berries are my favorite berries. I love bunch berries. And there's just like a huge pile of bunch berries. It's like, sweet, I'm going to sit here and chill out while you have your headache. So I'm just killing bunch berries. And he takes a huge deep breath, and I look at him and he goes, watch this. And I look at him and his hands are like, he's kneeling kind of like in a fetal position with his kind of hands like next to him or in front of him. And I just hear smack, thud, bang. And a rock falls like 15 feet away from him and rolls. I was like, what the hell? He's like, that was weird. I found that rock. I have that rock in the camper. But that's the kind of thing where you can't know a rock is coming from nowhere. In the middle of BC, the rock just comes flying out of the air and lands behind him. And you just like, watch this. 3-4 seconds before it comes falling. There's no way you can fake that. There's nobody over there. It's just there's too many things going on.
It's interesting, man. You know, it might be hard for me to understand or believe it. You know what I mean? But it's interesting to hear about. That's for sure. I mean, if you're having these profound experiences up there, like from my point of view, I'd be like, brother, keep going. Yeah. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, if you can, you know, it's awesome.
That's another controversial side of him too. Is like you think he's already controversial enough, and now he's talking about mind speak and telepathy. And
I caught a little bit of that on a live. It was wild. I just kind of watched, and you know, I'm not gonna sit here and repeat the shit I was reading because it was not. I mean, it wasn't productive. It wasn't helping. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, that's what we got to deal with. It's just what the topic entails, and unfortunately, someone who's stuck to hard factual evidence for 20 years all of a sudden branches into that side of the research. Of course, people are going to be like, the hell are you doing? You know? Yeah. And even I was like that at first until I started having, you know, weird things happen. Like I had always wanted a rock thrown at me. That was one of the things that never happened. I have trees pushed over at me. I've been screamed at. You know, you guys you've heard my encounters. That was the one thing I wanted to happen. I wanted a rock thrown at me. That's like bar none, like has to be a Sasquatch or a human, and there's no humans out here. You know,
Yeah.
so it was that like I just want this to happen, and I never really said anything to anybody about it. And all of a sudden, 4 days in, I get a rock thrown at me or towards me. So that was one of those another coincidences that Todd didn't even know about. How are you gonna?
Yeah.
It was almost like I did that. What's up?
Have you ever thought about doing mushrooms? Hear me out. Hear me out.
This dangerous child. Don't answer it.
There's a link to help open up your third eye, the pineal gland. I'm not going to say it again because I feel like I'm butchering it. But
pineal gland.
Even freaking
pineal gland.
Yeah. Joe Rogan even said it like this. Like, yeah, through over evolution. Like, yeah, like we learn not to use it anymore. Like we don't need it, and like a lot of people say that helps you open it back up to get you more in tune with nature. And I kept thinking, if you guys are doing this, like, and they're saying that like that like mushroom could do that, who's saying that these Sasquatch are not eating these mushrooms like out in the wild, and that's what's helping them do that?
That's a really good point. I never thought of that.
Dude,
that's a really awesome point.
Yeah, that goes back to the theory. They said that all human evolution could have been a primate at some point, ate some kind of, hallucinogenic whatever, and stimulated the pineal, and that could have kicked off all of